From the author of Spinsterella, a strange and unusual romance, and Spellbound, a darker shade of black, comes the legendary Magic Children. Pick up the conclusion of the Spinsterella trilogy in paperback and e-readers this Halloween.
Colin Kappernick says that he is being blackballed and blacklisted by the National Football League, and that the National Football League is racist because no team will sign him to a contract. However, if you take a look at Colin Kaepernick's situation from a panoramic and objective perspective, you can clearly see that Colin Kaepernick is using the race card to hustle a contract out of the NFL by saying that the NFL is racist and they're not judging him by the content of his gameplay, but by the color of his skin. And that argument really doesn't wash when you start to look at the numbers for your Colin Kaepernick, who was basically a second-string quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, a team that was not in contention for the playoffs last year. So for him to sit there and say that they are being racist for not, the NFL is being racist for not wanting to sign him, that argument really doesn't wash when you look at his gameplay, when you look at his stats, and when you look at his numbers. Now, your Colin Kaepernick is nowhere on the level of a Joe Montana or Steve Young, two iconic NFL quarterbacks who have gone to Super Bowls. So for him to sit there and say that he wanted to be released from his contract and then look up for a better deal, that was a really foolhardy thing to do when you are a second-string quarterback. I mean, first-string quarterbacks like Joe Montana, Steve Young, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, they can go and say, I want to go into free agency and then look for teams to offer them big numbers. A second-string guy like Colin Kaepernick can't go to major teams talking about, I want to get another contract, when you're playing on a team that really wasn't in playoff contention and was struggling all throughout last year and the last couple of years, because the 49ers really have not been a playoff team or on that really super high level of the days of Joe Montana and Jerry Rice or Steve Young and Jerry Rice. So for him to sit there and talk about he wants to get a better deal, he didn't bring anything to the table to warrant getting any better deal than the contract he had right now. And the decision to opt out of that contract was his own decision. He decided he didn't want to renew his deal with his contract. He wanted to be released from his contract. And there are consequences for being opting out of your contract. Once you leave your contract, you are gambling on the hopes that someone will take you on their team. And the possibility may be somebody may take you or somebody may not take you. And this was what Colin Kaepernick gambled on. And as he rolled his dice on the hopes that somebody would go and take him on their team all over last season, he then went into this quote-unquote protest where he was taking this knee for police brutality and racism. And he wrapped this race gimmick around his protest in the hopes to get attention for himself, hoping that one of these NFL team owners would see him as some sort of asset. Unfortunately, Colin Kaepernick's gamble didn't pay off because most team owners did not see him as this valuable asset. Instead, they saw your Colin Kaepernick as a liability. Here was a guy who was going to bring a whole host of controversy to whatever team he went to, and most NFL team owners are businessmen. And what their focus is winning games and getting that Lombardi trophy at the end of the year. Their goal is to win a Super Bowl. And they don't need some prima donna who's coming in here with a whole host of controversy and a whole host of drama, taking people's focus off the line where they're trying to win games. They want guys who are going to be focused on the play action and the blitz. They don't want a guy who's going to be focused on trying to make everything about him. When these owners looked at Colin Kaepernick, they saw a narcissist who was going to make everything about him and not about the team. And when you're in football, you want every player on that line of 11 men for the first lineup or even the second lineup to be focused on their game, because if you're not focused on the game, then you're not going to win games. And then if you can't win games, you're not going to be in any type of place to compete for the playoffs. If Colin Kaepernick had focused on his play, people would have been serious about wanting to hire him, because they would have said, this guy has a gun for an arm, he's got good eyes, he can see his wide receivers, he can see the field. Those are the things that owners are looking for in a football player. They're not looking at a guy who's looking to make a protest over something that wasn't even a protest. What people do during the national anthem has never been an issue for anyone in the NFL. Even the commissioner himself has said this. So why is Colin Kaepernick trying to turn it into a race issue when there is no race issue? Basically, he's trying to hustle people for money, and he's hoping to get a big contract out of some NFL team by shaming them into signing them. That's what his plan was. Unfortunately, his plan completely backfired, because he couldn't get any of these NFL teams to sign him. What most people don't know about Colin Kaepernick is this. Colin Kaepernick actually has other options. He can play for the Canadian Football League for a lot less money, or he can play for NFL Europe, which is what many other players do in the off season. And he has those two options for playing football. However, those two options he can't play the race card in, because in the Canadian Football League, you can't play the race card because Canadians don't play that, because there is no evil white man over there from America that you can guilt and shame. And the same thing with NFL Europe's owners. There's no evil white man over there that you can guilt and shame. And there's no police brutality angle that they can use in those two leagues, the Canadian Football League and the NFL Europe. Because in order to go over there, you have to show you can play. And this is one of the things that your Colin Kaepernick wants to try to avoid showing people, is his ability to play. He'd rather play the victim than play quarterback, and that's why he's in the jam that he's in right now. And just like Jesse Williams, he has used his creamy white skin and his crystal eyes to spellbind most of these people out here and have them believing that it's a race angle, when it's actually a race hustle, where he's going to try to make money at the expense of people by trying to shame them into believing he's some sort of victim, when he created this situation himself by saying that he wanted out of his contract when he had several years left on his contract. He could have just wrote his contract out and then been a free agent that way. But he said he wanted to be a free agent. He decided to enter the marketplace, and he entered the marketplace, found that most owners looked at his numbers and said, this guy is aging, his numbers aren't really that great, and we really don't want to spend money on someone who is going to be a liability. Moreover, we don't want to spend liability on someone who is going to generate controversy and cause people to not be focused on winning games. Because again, NFL is a business, and their goal of a team owner is to win games and get that Lombardi trophy at the end of the year. They don't have time to nurture prima donnas and divas like your Colin Kaepernick. They have to focus on winning games and the overall team. There are almost, I think, about 33 other players on the first to the third string, and they have needs too. And what this guy is doing is he's making it all about him. And when you own a team, you want to make it all about all of your players winning that game and being the best team that it can be. And with a guy like this, he's going to disrupt the flow of your team. He's going to take the focus off of what the game is. Yes, there are issues with race and race relations, but you're supposed, if you want to do that, you do that on your time, not on a business's time. And what this guy is doing is he's disrupting the business and making it all about him and what he has to offer, and it's all about deflecting from what little he has to offer. Colin Kaepernick is a mediocre player with mediocre stats and mediocre numbers, and he's trying to use race as a way to be as a gimmick to get people to shame him and signing him, when there's nothing to sign him for, because he brings nothing to the table to them, and he's using the race card to try to hustle people. But most people won't see that because they're so emotionally involved that they can't see that this guy is a con artist and a hustler, And all he's out to do is take advantage of people and take advantage of a situation to enrich himself at the black community's expense. Because that's all this is that he's exploiting the black community to enrich himself, and he's not out to help anyone else out. Colin Kaepernick's protest is not about the interests of the black community. It's all about him helping himself out to getting a contract for an affirmative action hire at the black community's expense, and then not paying it forward by trying to help some of these other brothers and sisters out here. If you like this, what you see in these videos, you can donate to my Patreon by clicking the link in the description box. If you want to try some of my books, you can go to Amazon.com and click the link in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.